Okay, what if I told you that the whole idea of the American dream, that anyone can climb the ladder of success, is basically a myth? And what if your social status today has way more to do with your ancestors from 1,000 years ago than your own hard work? It sounds crazy, right? Well, today we are diving deep into Gregory Clark's wild book, The Sun Also Rises, to ask a really uncomfortable question. Is social mobility nothing but an illusion?
Yeah, even the author knew he was dropping a bomb. He opens the book by basically saying, "Get ready, because what I'm about to tell you is going to challenge one of the most sacred beliefs we have." This is way more than just an academic debate. It's an idea that could change how we see success, fairness, and our own lives.
All right, let's get into it. To really get why this idea is so explosive, we first have to talk about the story we've all been told our whole lives. You know the one, society is like a big ladder, and if you just work hard enough, you can climb it no matter where you started from.
So, how do we usually measure this? Well, economists have this thing called intergenerational correlation. It sounds super technical, but the idea is actually simple. A low number is good. It means your parents' income doesn't really predict your income. So you look at a place like Sweden, the number's low, and you think, great, lots of mobility. The US and the UK, their numbers are higher, so they're less mobile. But the main takeaway from this standard view is that things can change, and pretty quickly from one generation to the next. That's the conventional wisdom. And this is the heart of it, right? This idea that the slate is wiped clean with every generation. Your destiny isn't written for you. It's an incredibly optimistic and empowering way to look at the world. It's the very foundation of our belief in equal opportunity. But here's the problem. If people are really moving up and down the ladder that fast, then why do we keep seeing the same family names running things for centuries? Why do some families seem to stay trapped in poverty for generation after generation? It just doesn't quite add up. And that little nagging question is where this whole new theory begins. The author Gregory Clark says that just looking at income for a generation or two is like trying to figure out the ocean's tide by looking at one random wave crashing on the shore. It's just noise. It's luck. It's timing. It's a million random things. He says if you want to find the true deep current of social status, you need a totally different tool: family names. So he introduces this concept called social competence. Now, this isn't just about money or who your parents know, it's much deeper. It's this inherited bundle of traits, things like intelligence, drive, ambition, people skills, that allows a family to be successful no matter what's going on in the world. Think of it as a family's underlying talent that gets passed down. And here is the absolute game changer. The old method gets bogged down in the random noise of life. But the surname method? It tracks how whole groups of people with the same last name do over hundreds of years, looking at who gets into elite schools, who becomes a doctor, who gets rich. By doing this, you can filter out all that short-term noise, and what you're left with is a picture of social mobility that is, well, much, much slower. So let's look at what this new method actually found, because this isn't just a small tweak to the old numbers. What emerges is so consistent, it almost looks like a law of physics. Just look at this table for a second. It's wild. It doesn't matter if you're talking about feudal England, the modern-day United States, or even socialist Sweden, a country that has tried everything to create an equal society. The underlying rate at which social status sticks around from one generation to the next is incredibly high, and it's almost identical everywhere. This one finding just blows up the whole idea that modern societies are more mobile than older ones. And all that crazy data from all those different countries boils down to this one single number, about 0.8. In the world of statistics, a correlation that high is massive. It means that status is incredibly sticky. So sticky, in fact, that it seems to be a fundamental constant of human society, no matter the time or place.
And if you want to see what that point 0.8 looks like in real life, this is the perfect example. So, the Normans conquer England back in 1066. Their surnames, like Percy or Mandeville, instantly become the elite. Now, fast forward through hundreds and hundreds of years, all the way to 2012, you know what they found? Those same Norman surnames are still overrepresented at Oxford and Cambridge. The advantage their ancestors got nearly 1,000 years ago, it hasn't fully worn off yet. Wow.
So, to be clear, this doesn't mean social mobility is a complete illusion. It's real. Families do rise and fall. But it happens at a glacial pace. We're talking 10 to 15 generations. That's like 300 to 450 years for a family from the very top or the very bottom to completely blend back into the societal average. It's happening on a totally different timescale than we ever imagined. Okay, so that leads to the next huge question. If it's not just about money or private schools, What is the engine driving this incredibly slow, persistent process? What makes status stick so tightly?
The theory says it comes down to two main forces. First, there's this universal law called regression to the mean. It just means that over time, exceptional things tend to become more, well, average. So an elite family won't stay elite forever, and a low-status family won't stay at the bottom forever. There's this constant natural pull toward the middle. But the second force is what controls the speed of that pull, who we decide to marry. And this is the marriage effect. When people tend to marry within their own social class, that's called endogamy, they're essentially pooling their social competence. This acts like a brake, slowing down that slide towards the average. But when people marry outside their group, exogamy, it's like hitting the accelerator, and that regression to the mean happens much faster for their kids. Now here is maybe the most shocking finding of all. Think about all the huge, world-changing events of the last few centuries. The Industrial Revolution, free public schools for everyone, the modern welfare state with all its social programs. We've always assumed these things were game changers for social mobility, but the data shows they had virtually no effect on this deep, underlying rate. The slow, steady churn just kept on going as if none of it ever happened.
So, if this theory is even partially right, what does it actually mean for us, for our society, for our own families, and for our personal ambitions? The implications are, frankly, huge and really uncomfortable to think about. Well, for starters, it suggests most government policies designed to create more mobility are probably doomed to fail because they're pushing against this massive underlying current. Second, it means all the crazy things wealthy parents do, the tutors, the expensive schools, the networking, might be a waste of time in the long run, powerless against the tide of regression. And third, and this is a real twist, it might mean the world is actually fairer than we thought. If what we're seeing is just the slow sorting of people by their innate, heritable talent, then maybe it's not about unfair privilege after all.
And this brings the author to his most provocative and stunning conclusion. He basically says the single most important thing you can do for your children's future success is to pick the right partner. Because once you've secured a mate with high social competence, you've already passed on the key ingredients. The rest is just details.
So, at the end of the day, it leaves us with this one final, mind-bending question. We spend our lives building our resumes, our skills, our education, our experiences, believing that's what defines us. But what if the more powerful document is actually our family tree, with roots that stretch back for centuries, quietly guiding our destiny in ways we are just now beginning to understand? It's a thought that kind of changes how you look at everything.